Celebrating 9 years of podcast excellence, the King of Podcasts Radio Network proudly presents the Wrestling is Real podcast, because wrestling needs us.
Welcome to episode 684 of the Wrestling is Real podcast. This is King of Podcasts. Thanks for joining me as I give you a proper intro to this program, which you can listen to anywhere you get your podcasts. Amazon, Spotify, Apple, iHeartRadio, and all the like. Stitcher, Spreaker, all those good places. All right, we're going to get into it. Wrestlemania Aftermath. And I got a few things I'm going to bring up all about this. Because, as you know, this program, of course, myself, I'm always considering about what is the future now that we get into the WrestleMania Hangover season, right? The couple of months that we're going to get for WrestleMania Backlash will give you the offset of what we got from WrestleMania. We take that. And then we move along into where we go now with SummerSlam season, which is in a couple months. We don't know, what is it, May 8th, I think it is, for WrestleMania Backlash, correct? So we got about 4 weeks to get that set up. And we know that we have, in the current state of the WWE, we have one men's champion holding 2 belts. We know Bianca Belair now is the Raw Women's Champion. Charlotte Flair retains the SmackDown Women's title. By the way, no U.S. title, no Intercontinental title defended at WrestleMania. They're throwaway belts. When they don't even consider to put those belts out there to be defended, then who cares? And that's a pretty big deal. But, you know, those belts are insignificant. As for anybody to think those belts, because we're getting a title match of those 2 titles on television, doesn't matter. It doesn't make a difference. It really doesn't. They're just props. They're just kind of trophies that you just go along with no prestige whatsoever, because those title holders can always lose at any time in non-title matches. The main titles are the ones that are considered, heralded, and made prestigious. Somewhat. They are now. Like Charlotte Flair has held that belt for a long time. 84 days or something like that for Roman Reigns. And now holding both belts. Big deal. They make those a big deal. But everything else they're trying to do, listen, they are trying to do some things now to try to find direction for some of the stars they've been working on and they've been trying to build as the future. I give them credit for what they're trying to do. Some of the alignments they've created right now are smart. By seeing Rhea Ripley with Liv Morgan, that sounds pretty good to put them together. Better matchup than her and Nikki Ash, Rhea Ripley and Nikki Ash. That makes sense. I actually kind of see where that works. Damian Priest now being aligned with Edge. That also makes sense. Seeing MVP aligned with Omos also makes sense. Because you're also doing things to kind of continue the storylines for some of these stars. So why would you have AJ Styles and Edge in the first place if you're not trying to build up a star? Well, Damian Priest now is brought into the new space. And listen, you know, I can listen to Busted Open all you want and Bully Ray talking about, you know, about trying to get behind certain stars. I'm not worried about the legends or the established stars and if they go heel or face. It's not about them. They can go and change as many times as they want. Sure, you're going to still cheer Edge. You're going to still cheer Becky Lynch. That's fine. Because that face heel turn only is effective so long until you become a star that's so big you can't help but boo them or can't help but cheer them. Because right now they have stars they were trying to make heels that are being cheered. And they just can't help themselves. The company doesn't want to just have like straight up baby faces. They'll just let them continue to be cheered as baby faces, even though they're heels or acting as heels. That's what they'll do. It doesn't make much for them at all to try to figure out what they're going to try to do. And so they have their dynamic of what they're doing and what they did on the show itself to really build up and try to make something special what's going on. Like, I mean, I appreciate what they're doing right now and where they're trying to go with trying to build up a lot of what they're doing. So in the post-WrestleMania episode, 2.1 million viewers. You got over 2 million viewers again. The test is going to be the WrestleMania Hangover. How long is it going to last? How long can they keep that 2 million viewers? I give it another 2 weeks, and that's it. They'll go back under. Like, by the time we get past WrestleMania Backlash, we'll be back around like 1.6, 1.7 million viewers. Because that Hangover only lasts about a month at the most. It's not going to stretch out. This is a chance for them to take their base audience. You got them so excited and so hyped up and so much buzzing out of WrestleMania this year. But remember, some of the things they did on this show, they're not going to continue. Johnny Knoxville's not coming around. No Logan Paul. No Stone Cold Steve Austin. No Undertaker. No Triple H. You're not going to see them on TV. You're going to see other people out there. So it's now time to take those new eyeballs that have returned back to watch WrestleMania, post-WrestleMania Raw. Now you need to get them to say, okay, now we need to start seeing what's happening. So one of the things that's definitely, it's going to be now permanent. That's a new fixture in WWE once again is Cody Rhodes. And Cody Rhodes cut a great promo. The intent to live up to his daddy's legacy and win the title, win the WWE or Universal title, whatever one, win that belt that his daddy never won. But the story I would still like to prefer is the same story we told of Drew McIntyre. Chip on his shoulder. At some point, they should tell that story. I mean, Cody Rhodes, you need to go ahead and explain the career he had here. He had a 10-year career, and some of these newer fans, they don't know about him. They might have heard about him from Ring of Honor or New Japan or his work pioneering AEW, but that's all behind him now. This is the part of his career in a new trajectory, a new path, where he's trying to get the chip on his shoulder. He's going back to where he was made a star, some kind of a star, because WWE is responsible for making him at the level of star he was, to be able to go ahead and go out into the indies, out to Japan, out to wherever, to build himself back up and to make himself such a bigger star than he was when he left. Because he wasn't going to get to do what he wanted to do as long as he stayed in the company. It was stagnant. It was stale. It was a good time for him to go, and he went at the right time. And we all talked about at the time about how Cody Rhodes left, and it was that mass exodus that was leaving because there was a lot of morale that was low in the company because you started seeing people that wanted to leave, or CM Punk leaving, or, take a pick. There were certain stars that also wanted to leave, wanted to be let go, waiting for the future endeavor, and out. And that was going on for a lot of them. That really started with Cody Rhodes back in, 2016? He was really the start of the mass exodus. And then you started seeing other stars that would go away. And when you think about it, he did get quite a bit of help because he did get to be a part of Legacy. That was an important faction for him to be in. His tag teams with Damian Sandow, with his brother Dustin. I mean, Rhodes Scholars, Goldust and Stardust. He also tagged with Drew McIntyre, if I'm correct, right? Like, there's a lot there. I mean, he did quite a bit. And, I mean, Cody had a pretty good run, but he was never going to be the main event star. So he had to go ahead and discover it himself. And he comes back. And under his terms, unscripted promo, he did an AEW promo. His style of AEW promo, he did that in front of the WWE audience. And not everybody's going to go ahead and get latched on to the sermon, but that's okay. They're going to find out anyway. And they're going to realize if some of these, maybe the fans will not take on to him so far right away, but we're going to see where he goes because I think there's a good chance he's going to do really well. He's going to stand out. And then we're going to see Cody Rhodes be able to be the main eventer that he always wanted to be after all. He'll get the chance to do that now. And that's important to him. That's what he needed to be. And so I'm happy for him to get this chance. To be able to go and get that spotlight once again. And now being taken seriously. Bully Ray was right about American Nightmare. Yeah, he needs to be somebody's nightmare. Maybe not Vince McMahon's. But the nightmare scenario needs to be added into his gimmick. He needs to be doing something where he is basically stalking, he's preying, he's hunting down whoever the champion is. Like, do we need to wait until we find out what happens with Roman Reigns and how that second belt is going to be unloaded from him? Because he's going to stay Universal Champion. What do you do with that WWE Championship? Well, we don't know yet. We just got done with WrestleMania. They'll give us what their answer is going to be coming up for Backlash, or if they're even going to have him defend it at Backlash. We don't know if Brock Lesnar is going to come back and ask for a rematch. We don't know what they're going to do. We're too soon into the whole mix. It was a reset. And so we wanted to see what they were going to do to kind of... They're not so much resorting every storyline. Of course, they're going to have to reset and rehash storylines that are going to continue going forward, but they might be changing position. Or, you know, we're going into another area of the plot line, another arc. We're going into another direction. We're steering it to another place to get to the end point of where we want these storylines to be. And they're not perfect. And they don't have a lot of depth because they know this global audience can't take a very complex storyline. Neither the fans, for that matter. The lowest common denominator. They always think that. So that's what they're going to do. And so Veer Mahan finally made his appearance on Raw. Main roster debut by himself. Cody starts off Raw to a good start. And Roman Reigns talking after he defeated Brock Lesnar. And when we get into it, Cody did choke up a bit. I mean, this was one of his, again, this is one of those passionate promos that he's known for now. Showed a photo of Dusty holding an old version of the WWE Championship that he said was on his parents' mantle for many years. Listen, the whole story was great. Very nicely well done. Enough time, and Seth comes back out. These guys are going to continue to work with each other now. Great. Cody offered Seth a handshake, and Seth still shook his hand. Kind of a Ring of Honor thing. But we don't know what's going to happen if there's going to be another match or not. Either which way, Cody, we know his intention. Now we need to know who this version of the American Nightmare is. Is it an extension of what he's doing? We need to find out what that's going to be. And he gave us a different style of promo that I hope that will catch on to everyone else watching Raw. Because that guy, his promo should be grabbing ears and should be engaging to that audience. The audience should just be latched right in. And they're intently, like E.F. Hutton, that's an old reference, but they should be intently hearing what that guy has to say when he comes on out. His matches are great. His promos are great. This guy has improved so much. And maybe not so much towards some improvement, but he has harnessed and he has enhanced himself to such a main event level now. He is ready-made for main event right now. And this company needs to do this right and keep him at that spot. He is at the level near main event, and at some point you could put him in the main event. Now, we don't know how high they're going to put him in the main event or not. But you know what, with Cody Rhodes, I don't see him putting himself in some career that's going to take him outside into Hollywood. This guy's a lifer in the business. His family is, all generation to this. Training, performing. I mean, he's doing some other projects, sure, but it doesn't matter. I mean, this whole thing right here, Cody is a lifer in the wrestling business. I think that's where he's always going to be. The loyalty's to the business. And he could do sports entertainment. He could do what Vince wants. And Vince knows what he has in Cody. And I think he realizes that, listen, credit to the man because of what he was able to do and how he has changed, how he was a figure into creating one of the most important changes in wrestling that we needed, one of the most necessary changes in the past 20 years in wrestling today. The reason why this program is so happy to go ahead and talk about All Elite Wrestling on a regular basis. I might not talk about it enough because I know you guys want to hear about the WWE all the time, and so I talk about it. But AEW needs to get its props, and when they do, I give it a lot. Because there's a lot they're doing right. Now, Championship Contenders match, I hate those matches, but for tonight, fresh, we got Naomi and Sasha against Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan. There you go. But there you go. You have that going on, which is fine. And Morgan and Ripley are getting viral. People are starting to get into it, which is nice. Kevin Owens confronting Dominic Mysterio and The Miz. Okay, hold on that. Oh, well, it wasn't like that. Oh, yeah. Ezekiel. Elias as Ezekiel. I think this is... They just put a little nugget into us. Elias now is younger brother, shaved his beard. He still sounds like Elias. Still has the same body type. It's... I love to know what they're going to go with this, but I just don't know where to go with it. I'm interested. I'm all in. I want to see what Ezekiel's going to be. Who is this guy? Let's keep going with this. This is definitely a different look, and they were going to repackage him. Okay, this is good. I'm all in. I'm interested. So you can keep giving me Elias or Ezekiel segments. Let's see where we go. And again, it's funny where they use another biblical name for the character. Just saying. So Miz taking on Dominic Mysterio. Okay. Just continuing, what a feud was beforehand. But no Logan Paul, which is unfortunate. But they're going to keep going with this. And they're not going to have anybody else with it's going to be just this triangle of matches, I guess. Bianca Belair, celebratory promo. And Bianca got to talk on her own. So you know what? She said the people deserve a better champion than Becky. She got better and beat her. And she's getting the praise she needs now. She conquered the SummerSlam 27-second beatdown. She's completely redeemed herself. Complete and total vindication. Bianca Belair is now an established main event star. She is a made woman now in WWE. That's it. She is a main event star right now. She will always be looked at and perceived in that level. So the credit to the company, because after all the years they've had to go and work off of having Sasha Banks or Bayley or Charlotte Flair or Becky Lynch or Paige holding the mantle and really being or Alexa Bliss for that matter, and being the standard bearers across the board of what the women's evolution was and is today. And now Bianca Belair follows that same trajectory. She's in that same set of stars right there. She's at the same level as all those names I mentioned. I'm not taking anybody else. You can argue all you want if I'm right or wrong. I think she's at the same level as Becky Lynch, Charlotte Flair, Sasha Banks, Bayley, Paige, AJ Lee. I think she's in that same class right now. Right now. I'm really proud of her. I'm really grateful that she's where she's at right now. Let's keep that belt on her for a while. Let's get a new opponent and let's keep it rolling, okay? Then, so Braun Breaker, Dolph Ziggler, and Ziggler won the NXT title match against Braun Breaker after the triple threat, where Ziggler won it and did not pin Braun Breaker, but did pin Braun Breaker at NXT Stand and Deliver. But they bring the match on Raw. And Ziggler and Breaker take themselves on, and Breaker wins the belt on Raw after WrestleMania. They thought this was because they weren't going to put it on Raw or on WrestleMania, and Stand and Deliver was not going to be watched by everybody. So they wanted to make sure that win was significant on Raw. And so they let it be where Breaker gets his win back, gets the belt, wins the victory, because we're going to see him winning titles somewhere down the line in this company. So this is a moment that says that Braun Breaker is the future of this company as well. He's winning titles, and he's going to win titles coming up on the main roster at some point. The fact that Dolph Ziggler is a Raw superstar, he makes his way over, and now we're seeing this. Wonderful. And even though there was a little bit of storyline that was interjected before WrestleMania to go ahead and show Braun Breaker being a part right here with his feud with Dolph Ziggler to kind of cross that over into NXT, which has actually helped the ratings on NXT as well, to get over 600,000 viewers for the post-show of Stand and Deliver. That's good for them. And Braun Breaker gets this chance to get the spotlight. People are going to wonder, okay, look, this guy did a great match with Dolph Ziggler. Dolph Ziggler we've seen on TV for a long time, and he handled himself really well, won a title, the NXT title, whatever prestige you want to take to that Dolph Ziggler had it, and then he won it back Braun Breaker wins the belt back in a strong fashion, and there you go. It's perfect. Very well done. Then after that, we go into the fact that MVP and Bobby Lashley are not working with each other. Lashley has definitely become a face. And, bump fisting with the crowd. Good stuff. Omos, they want to continue this right here. And you know what? Omos absolutely needed a manager. And MVP has already done really well with Bobby Lashley. You know what? And the truth is, to see Bobby Lashley, they kind of are taking a little bit of the Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns kind of idea with Paul Heyman. You change the advocate to the next person, right? So, really, Omos cannot go by himself. It doesn't make sense at all. And so it's really important here to see that Omos is going to get MVP, who's going to do a great job of selling this guy. And Omos now has to just work on his workload. He's got to be able to go ahead and work better. He's got to learn. And so hopefully MVP is going to be able to give a lot to... He's going to be able to give a lot to him, hopefully. It works. And, I like that Lashley came back. He's important right now. This is a very important feud. Omos needs to get over. So this is another guy from last year that, we recognized him with AJ Styles for a long time and was well protected. Didn't necessarily, fumble over anything that he was doing, which is fine. But now, to go and see MVP making his way with Omos, it makes sense here. And these guys can continue their feud. Like, it just got started. Now we can just continue it and see what happens. But we got to do something with Omos to make these matches better. Like, I don't know what you're going to do because he's still pretty green. But, big guy moves. Let's find a way to get him to have a pretty good match. Now you don't have to worry so much about him having to go walk out there. Maybe MVP will help him with the suits. You'll see him, even Omos will even look even better. And you'll see an adjustment to the character going forward. That is promising. They definitely want Omos to get over. This is another chance. Something's got to give. And any big guys we've always seen out there, it does really help a lot if you can let a big guy, especially in the early part of their career, to give them a mouthpiece to work off of, okay? I think of Vader, Vader just getting inducted into the Hall of Fame this past weekend. And I think of myself, man, Vader with Harley Race at the beginning was such an important thing for Vader to get over. He got over after all that fact because of what he was. But I'll tell you, Harley Race as the mouthpiece for Vader was impressive. Same thing when you look at all the... Like, you look at every time with Jimmy Hart, like it had an earthquake or a tugboat, right? Or Big John Studd. You think about that. Or no, Bobby Heenan had Big John Studd. Right. And then you think Bobby with Andre. Like, just all these things where you get a good mouthpiece to a really big name star. Even Great Khali with Ranjit Singh fit effectively for the Great Khali, even though Great Khali was not a great wrestler. But I think with Ranjit Singh, it was good. It actually worked for Great Khali instead of him just going up by himself. You got to have that person. And so hopefully that works out right. It's necessary. Then you have Usos and Austin Theory versus RK Bro and Finn Balor. And so you give another match where Usos and RK Bro are put together for this special night where they're both on different brands. Let's do it here. And Austin Theory and Finn Balor, you can continue their storyline going forward here. Okay. Then we get the Edge and Damian Priest, which was really important. Edge came to the ring talking about AJ Styles at WrestleMania, had a great match. The Damian Priest intrusion. The Archer of Infamy said he was lost before WrestleMania. The crowd chanted, "We don't care." Priest said he didn't care about them anymore. We already knew that heel turn was already working its way through. He was already going, Jekyll and Hyde already. So now he just becomes one side, and that's it. Then AJ Styles comes out there as the strong babyface trying to go ahead and get his revenge back. Street Profits at Alpha Academy to continue to do their work. And, they're working with each other. Alpha Academy now moves along where RK Bros already moved along to something else. And now you just had Street Profits Alpha Academy that were already in the tag team title match over the weekend. Them going on with each other, just another match they always do. And then Roman Reigns celebrates Undisputed Champion. And he says that his next step he's going to take on Friday. And they just didn't want to give much up. They just wanted to tease the crowd to have Reigns go ahead and say, watch me on SmackDown. That's it. Heel move. Yeah, it's not great. But by then, the crowd already kind of fades out around 10:30, 10:45. So they're not going to put anything overly main event. They weren't going to have him wrestle. They just weren't. We're not going to do anything like that. So they had their plan, what they were going to do, and that's fine. And then we look at what the future of the company, because we don't know what SmackDown's going to hold for us yet. We have to wait on that. But first, before we go into anything about NXT, let's go and talk about this unfortunate story that came out. So MSK is going to be split up. Nash Carter has been let go, released by the company. Real name Zachary Green, and he was Zachary Wentz in the Radicals. So that guy's gone. I don't know what happens next, but the decision is sudden, and it comes after his wife, Kimberly, formerly Abby Lathan, WWE, or Kimberly, you remember from Impact Wrestling, accused Carter of domestic abuse. She tweeted over the weekend, "This is my face after your tag champ got wasted and hit me so hard he split my lip open. He told me I'm a wrestler, so I'm always marked up. I hid this for a year and I even forgive him, but I can't hide it anymore." And Carter has not responded at all to the allegations. And she showed proof of her hit to the lip on Twitter. And there you go. So without much said, the controversy's too much. So Nash Carter, gone. And I don't know what happens now with Desmond Xavier. I don't know what you do with him. Or Wes Lee. I don't know what you do now. But, I mean, he's in a bad spot because that was a team together. I don't know what he does by himself. I mean, he was a pretty decent singles wrestler before, and he could still do that. But, man, what a mess to deal with this. I mean, the fact that we couldn't even drop the tag team titles before that. Or, whatever happened. It's unfortunate. Well, that's on him. What are you going to do? Next up, NXT 2.0, 631,000 viewers. And it did pretty well. And you had NXT champion Braun Breaker against Gunther to head up the night. And the ratings continue to be quite interesting as they move across. Their numbers have been pretty good. They've now been pretty consistent, over 600,000 viewers. The Roadblock special all the way up to Stand and Deliver, Go Home, and the Fallout. Their numbers have gotten better. Like, here's the thing. They were under... Okay, so there was a while that, when they first changed up and changed everything up with a show, it did take a drop, and then it started moving up, and everything got just changed up, which is great. And they found the audience is being discovered now, and some of those stars are starting to pay off now. They're starting to get somewhere, which is good for the company. They're getting somewhere. And that developmental talent needs to go somewhere and make something of themselves going forward. Something has to happen. Now, into the stories we got to go along with and talk about is what they're doing now going forward with the Next in Line program. This is something I was going to bring up last week, but I decided not to. I decided, let me just go ahead and push back on this a little bit, because I knew we were going to have to talk about this eventually, and I figured now's as good a time as any to go ahead and look at what's happening now with all that's going on with the call-ups that are going to be made coming up soon from the NXT roster to the stars in the Next in Line program that are going to be brought up. They obviously did a They did a storyline with Gable Steveson at WrestleMania, setting up his eventual appearance regularly on Raw or SmackDown, whenever that's supposed to be. They're already making a big deal out of him. That instantly he's going to be somewhat of a star to look at right away. So there's been new information talking about call-ups on the main roster. We're going to be seeing down the line. Fightful Select reports that LA Knight and Raquel Gonzalez have both been pitched for call-ups to Raw or SmackDown. And it was noted while Gonzalez seems to be expected by most within NXT, Knight's situation not as certain. And one of the things they're thinking is that LA Knight should be brought up as a manager because of his mic work. And there's no word if the role is favored over Knight being a regular in-ring talent, but it was pitched. Listen, if you want to make him a manager, go ahead. Do it. I mean, they do have... You can work with something like that if you want to do that. I mean, we already know that Gunther beat LA Knight at the NXT Stand and Deliver special event and was not used last night on the Stand and Deliver episode, the post-show. And the kickoff pre-show for Stand and Deliver had Gonzalez and Kai reunite to defeat Gigi Dolan and JC Jane for the NXT Women's Tag Team titles. But last night they dropped them in a rematch. So we don't know what's going to happen, but those two names are big. Listen, Raquel Gonzalez jumping up to the main roster, she's going to be a big deal up there, and she could be an instant sensation up there if used right. I mean, that's a different dynamic altogether. She's going to be, there's really a lot of diversity up there on that main roster in the first place for the women. They don't have a Hispanic star right now. Well, they have Zelina Vega, but this one right here, Raquel Gonzalez, also, bigger, stronger, much more formidable opponent to deal with. She's got a great character, so bring her on up. She's going to do really well. LA Knight, I mean, I wonder who would be put and paired against as a manager, if that's the decision. I actually like the idea, but either which way, LA Knight should be up on that main roster in some way, shape, or form. That's what they're saying about NXT at the moment. Now, let's look at the next in line that they're going to be doing going forward and see what they have in plans for this. Because there was a couple names they brought up. One of them was the Northwestern football star Joe Spivak, that we had talked about when we talked about the next in line program and what they were going to be doing with that, which Triple H is heading, by the way. ESPN put out a story about it. And he mentioned that Spivak was a Northwestern defensive lineman for 2017 to 2021, team captain last year. He was at Raw 2 weeks ago as a guest. And he envisions nights he'll walk down the aisle, address thousands of WWE events. And WWE is wrapping up its recruitment of college athletes. And he was one of 16, including 6 football players who signed name, image, and likeness deals with WWE as part of the NIL program back in December. We talked about that. You can look for the episode. And WWE sees this as a way to identify and develop the next generation of superstars earlier than ever. And in WrestleMania week, more than 50 male and female participants with backgrounds in college athletics tried out with the WWE at the Star, the practice facility for the Dallas Cowboys in Frisco, Texas. In June, they're going to announce a new 15-person next in line class, which will include players from college football's highest level. Promotion already has an impressive lineup of former athletes. When you're talking about the current roster, right? Brock Lesnar, who was a wrestling star in Minnesota. Big E, who was a football star in Iowa. Stone Cold Steve Austin, who's played football in North Texas. And The Rock, who played at University of Miami football. Now, Spivak would also not only be at AT&T Stadium for WrestleMania weekend, he also participated in Pro Day at Northern Illinois University, and also had possibly another workout at Chicago Bears headquarters. And some of the other names they have in the next in line class is LSU defensive lineman Glenn Logan, who is training for Pro Day at April 6th at the team's facility in Baton Rouge. So WWE wants to get Spivak, Logan, and other signees in the ring, first at the Development Center in Orlando, but only after their NFL pursuit reaches its endpoint. So they're going to see if they can make it in football. And if they don't, they have the backdrop of wrestling. And they're still going to get to be trained for wrestling anyways. For WWE, they say the wait is worth it, even if it takes years. And they've had success with former college athletes. Many didn't start their wrestling careers until later. So Roman Reigns, if you didn't know, he played at Georgia Tech for football. had a brief NFL stint, and then joined in 2010 with WWE and made his roster debut 2 years later. Bianca Belair ran track at South Carolina, Texas A&M, and Tennessee. She was academic all SEC honors 3 times, and signed shortly after her 27th birthday, and made her in-ring debut 4 months later, made her TV debut the following May. Spivak and Logan are both 24 years old, and you also know that Gable Steveson, he's 21, Olympic gold medal winner 2 times, and the first NIL signee, and all the athletes now participating in tryouts this week are younger than 25 years old. James Kimball, Senior VP for Global Strategy and Development, he says, quote, "We would like that age number to come down, especially on the developmental standpoint. The second you enter our developmental program and then potentially end up on NXT TV and then on to SmackDown or Raw, you want the number to be 25, not 30 or 35. Very true. The way to get that number is to start the developmental process earlier. And some wrestlers are being fast-tracked onto rosters. Braun Breaker, a former Kennesaw State running back, needed 6 months to reach NXT and won the championship less than 4 months later. But again, you have the background of him and the Steiner brothers being his family, with Rick Steiner being his father, who was in a storyline to build up to Braun Breaker right now in NXT. So they got that going on for him. Kimball goes on and says, "We're able to develop them in an accelerated manner. Get them to WrestleMania or Raw. Do media training, do community events, all those initial exposures to business, those that have been done while you're still in school, and then you come to Orlando and off you go." So before Spivak, Kimball had been in Detroit for the NCAA Wrestling Championships, watching Gable Steveson win his second collegiate heavyweight title, leaving his shoes on the mat to retire. And Kimball's always scouting other potential NIL targets, and he says that WWE is going to be an annual presence for NCAA championships for wrestling, track and field, and gymnastics, while continuing to monitor college football, a sweet spot for us. They also announced a partnership with INFLCR, which works with many NCAA institutions, providing a large database of athletes to access. So they're in the recruiting business of college athletes, much like other sports leagues. They're going after the same crop of talent. And with the new program, they're able to do it. Kimball says that WWE is 100% supportive of college athletes completing their goals in their primary sport before pivoting to the ring. And then you have the first class, including Oklahoma State wrestler AJ Ferrari, who won an NCAA title as a freshman in 2021. He's 20 years old, recovering from a serious car accident in January. He wants to pursue more titles, as well as the Paris Olympics in 2024, before focusing on WWE. So in a couple of years, he could be very much ready to come on board. Kimball goes on and says, "Even if you come to WWE when you're 23, 24, 25, that's a significant improvement over what historically has been the case with some of our developmental talent. We fully support every athlete pursuing their dreams in their given sport. The idea is that we have the opportunity that in college they evaluate them as a potential talent and for them to evaluate us." Now, they got more of the story about when it comes to Joe Spivak. They really focused on him quite a bit. They also talk about Logan as well. In the actual work that he was doing, for NIL signees, the preparation process is well underway. During a backstage show before Raw, he peppered employees with questions about the promotion and what to expect when he enters the developmental program. And Spivak was already thinking about character options. And that's the other thing, that some of these stars are already thinking about their own storylines, their own characters. So they're going to be able to bring that into the game if they decide to do so, which is interesting. Now, the other story that I mentioned was about the tryouts. Well, let's talk about what they actually did. Because what they actually did was they did host 45 current and former college athletes for a weekend tryout. And this was before WrestleMania. All 53 participants for the tryout, 29 women, 24 men, were 25 years and younger. And 8 participants did not complete collegiately, but stood out in MMA and CrossFit. In addition to football players, you had players in basketball, 4 women and 3 men, and also athletes from volleyball, wrestling, track and field, and soccer. And WWE also scouted college bowl games as well as NCAA championships for track and wrestling, and several combine events for its tryout list. Average age for male participants, 23.4 years old. Average female, 22.8 years old. That is huge. They're looking at the future. And once they go through things, like they said, 25, 26, under 30, and they're on into the roster, and they've already been trained through. And, of course, it's not a matter of them having to train at all for their peak performance in terms of being able to be athletic. They already have that. It's just like a Kurt Angle. It's just like a Bobby Lashley. You take those stars. They already have the sports acumen, the athletic acumen. All you got to do is you're training them to be wrestlers. You're training the moves, taking the bumps, and they already have the personality, the charisma to build themselves up to be big stars down the line. That's the idea of all of this. It's very important. So we know that's what they're going to try to do. They have other stars we're talking about as well. And there's a lot of names they put in here, which I'm not going to go through. But they did such an amazing work putting this all together. It's incredible the level of stardom they have right now. It's really, really great. And now, what did WWE accomplish with WrestleMania this year? They did have to use quite a bit of older and a lot of celebrity talent and some of their part-time talent to really stand out. Now, we know we haven't seen Brock Lesnar yet, but he was mostly on SmackDown. Ronda Rousey, but she was mostly on SmackDown as well. We don't know what they're going to have, some of these stars, what they're going to be doing as the SmackDown comes on as I record this next. We don't know what's going to be happening next. We're going to wait and see and find out for ourselves. Because they did a good job, as I'm talking about with Raw. We're starting to see that we're going to say that they are building stars. When I talked about just now some of the stars they have, Austin Theory, Omos, when you're looking at Damian Priest, and you're looking at Bianca Belair, I mean, they're getting a nucleus of stars they're trying to build up and get ready. Rhea Ripley, Liv Morgan, you can see what they're trying to do to build up stars and get the future ready and going. It's just very thin. And there's not enough to keep people interested for 3 hours and 2 hours of what they're doing. That has to be worked on as well. So you have to work on it. There has to be more that happens with all of them. I don't know what they're going to do with that next, but they need to work on that more. Now, among the other things I had over the weekend, I didn't get a chance to watch the Impact Wrestling Multiverse of matches, and I don't know if I'm going to get a chance to watch it after all, but, you know, I will say that I want to go and see what the card was. I still got to go in and watch it at some point, but when I get a chance, I will. On the card, you had Trey Miguel defeat Chris Bay, Jordan Grace, Rich Swann, Vincent, and Willie Mack, and intergender Ultimate X-Max to retain the X Division title. Mickey James and Nick Aldis beat Chelsea Green and Matt Cardona in a mixed tag team match. Speedball Mike Bailey over Alex Shelley. The Influence retained the Impact Knockouts tag team titles. Tomohiro Ishii, the Pitbull, defeated Eddie Edwards in 15 minutes. Josh Alexander and Jonah defeated Moose and PCO. Deonna Purrazzo beat Fabio Apache to retain the Reina de Reinas Championship in AAA, which I think Fabio Apache was a former champion in AAA of that belt. Chris J defeating Jay White. Damn, that's a pretty big win for Chris Sabin. And the Good Brothers defeated the Briscoe Brothers. And this was a non-title, no title on the line, but the Good Brothers over the Briscoes in this match. So that sounded like a pretty good show, but I didn't get a chance to watch all that was going on with it, but quite interesting. Other than that, what are we going to talk about now when it comes to the rest of the wrestling companies and how they turned out afterwards? You know, what I see is being done, I think AEW had a nice little mark for themselves, or Tony Khan definitely did with Supercard of Honor, because that was a great show. Definitely, we're not afraid to go ahead and build up off the Supercard of Honor to build for Dynamite this week. When you look at Samoa Joe coming out in a match, and then you're looking at FTR and the Young Bucks taking on each other in a match of the main event, and seeing what they did. Like, it was really a lot being put into there. And, you know, Tony Khan is trying to go and do more things when it comes to, he's got the Battle of the Belts coming up April 16th. So next Saturday, he's going to try to do more to really build up the Rampage card. And he wants to make the show stacked because right now the ratings are taking a bit of a hit. When you look at the ratings going across the board, it's dropping down a little bit. They're not hitting. They had a thing where they had a couple of episodes where the NCAA came into play, and it hurts every time when they have to go ahead and drop off their 10 o'clock slot, and it's not consistent. And that's one of the things they're having to worry about here, because their ratings at the start of the year hovered around 500 to 600,000, and then going into February, they dropped under 400 into the 400,000 range, back into 500,000, but it's been like up and down ever since. So now, when they go into this week, they want to make sure they hit over 500,000 viewers or back above something else. So Tony Khan talking about how he wants to go ahead and stack the card and really make it big again. And so let's see how he does. But overall, what they've been doing on AEW right now has been excellent. I can really enjoy what they're doing so far, and they're set up with things when it comes to what Dynamite's giving us on a regular basis. It's great. As always, he's putting out some great events going on. And this week, the same goes. You had the Owens Hart Foundation men's and women's tournaments continuing. As Samoa Joe comes out to be in a match here. Max Caster doing a pretty good job of cutting a promo back at just Samoa Joe and saying, when we were beating them in the ratings, Samoa Joe was a champ. On the other side, pretty good. Christian Cage, Adam Cole had a great match. FTR Young Bucks, Hardys in a tables match. Hikaru Shida and Julia Hart, women's tournament, great stuff. And so after Christian Cage, Adam Cole gets the win, and Page and Cole will continue their feud. And the word is that Adam Cole is going to challenge Hangman Page for the world title in a Texas Death Match Friday. So we're going to get to see that. That's huge. Samoa Joe wins. Jay Lethal's son Jay Dutt. They confront Joe, saying they're going to have a present for Samoa Joe next week in New Orleans. And that storyline continues for Supercard of Honor to here until Ring of Honor has their own TV show. Eventually. It's a nice little wrinkle to have right now, but hopefully not for long. Hopefully we'll find a place for that to go. Sean Spears, Captain Sean Dean, and this match is just put together where Sean Spears takes the loss and Wardlow, MJF continue to be a thing, and they keep building that up. They're consistent about trying to the MJF Wardlow story to keep going. It's good, and Wardlow is getting over as it goes along. Then Eddie Kingston, Santana Ortiz going after Jericho Appreciation Society. That's a good thing right there with all those stars, former Inner Circle stars with Eddie Kingston. And Jericho with his new group and all that going on. That's good stuff. They're setting up a 6-man tag team match next week on Dynamite. That's great stuff. Jeff does another Swanton Bomb through tables. And the Hardys getting to do the matches they want. It's fun. Everybody's really happy about it. Julia Hart shooing off the Varsity Blonde. So we're going to see the full heel turnover. I like her. I want to see what they're going to do with her. And the continuation of Hikaru Shida and Serena Deeb, the feud that will never end. And I'm all in for it. Let's keep it going. I like it. I don't know what you're going to do with it, but let's keep it going. And Julia Hart is growing into her own. She's embracing the heel turn that's upcoming. That's good stuff. FTR and the Young Bucks was a hell of a match. Second time they face each other, made a big deal for it. FTR, man, they're just part of some of the best matches. Part of one of the best matches of the weekend. Listen, don't get me wrong. The tag team matches at WrestleMania were great, but the tag team match of the weekend was FTR against Briscoes. Period. End of story. Full stop. And FTR putting out Match of the Year candidates. 2 great matches this week. I mean, these guys, I'll tell you, man, and WWE just did not do the Revival justice. FTR are just on top of the world right now. They are awesome. And even better, I think, I don't even know how it's possible, but not having Tully Blanchard out there, FTR is amazing. Especially the Midnight Express style music. I love it all. It's just fantastic. And they're doing really good work over there. I got to tell you this, too. I've really enjoyed Major League Wrestling, I don't talk about enough. But Major League Wrestling also does a hell of a job with what they're doing right now. And I missed all NWA. I got to catch up on all that. But I really enjoy certain things that they're doing right now with what they're doing with MLW. Let me tell you, if you have not watched lately, St. Laurent, who's part of MLW Radio and all that stuff, the introduction of a new superstar in MLW, Microman. Dude, you have to watch this guy. What a great gimmick. Microman. I'm telling you, it was so good. And then Jacob Fatu against Mads Kruger. Fantastic match. Jacob Fatu is embracing the face turn. They got really great characters over the MLW. Underrated. I'm telling you, so important. And now you're building up a great story with Alex Hammerstone, your boy Hammer, against Richard Holiday. With Alicia the Toot now accompanying him, and they're set for Kings of Coliseum coming up in Philadelphia. That's great stuff. Then Azteca Underground being done and all that. Like, the Azteca stuff is great. Really enjoying all the stuff they're doing in MLW, Major League Wrestling, truly underrated. One of the shows I cannot miss whatsoever. Catch it all. It's great. Court Bauer, kudos to you. You're doing a fantastic job over there. They're doing great stuff. And keep in mind, man, they got Killer Cross that came in. Iji and Duco and Heavyweight Hustle. Calvin Tankman winning the tag team titles. Great stuff. You know, the hell of a tag team division, 5150, by the way. If I had to hear Joe Dombrowski one more time. 5150 going up against the Von Erichs. 5150. I mean, seriously. Just great tag teams, by the way. You got them, the Von Erichs working in this here. Like, it's just good stuff. A lot of good major main event style stars going after the world title, after the national openweight title. When you have Davey Richards, which I don't talk much about Davey Richards being in here, Angie Anduka the judge, Calvin Tankman, Alex Kane, Boomaye, right? Richard Holiday, Alexander Hammerstone. That's a hell of a roster. And Jacob Fatu and Mads Kruger against really good stuff and even some pretty decent jobbers. And Bud Heavy and Gnarls Garvin, and Enzo coming out there too. Like, it's quite an interesting roster they have. It's good. And Cesar Duran doing really good with what he's doing there. And all the stars they get to bring in from Mexico on a regular basis. Really good stuff. Really, really good stuff. And then we look along, and I'll tell you, like, NWA, I feel like I've been a little bit behind on. Mickie James says she's going to try to do another Empower. Colby Corino's doing quite good right now when it comes to NWA and what he's doing. Like, I mean, he's really gone to his health. Matt Cardona continued to be NWA World Heavyweight Champion, and it's working good. I mean, I just wish... I really like what they're doing in the NWA with some of the stars they have there. Camille is being booked so well. And it's funny, somebody talked about the comparisons to Camille and Jade Cargill, and if there could be a champion versus champion match somewhere down the line, I would love to see that. That'd be wonderful. And Impact Wrestling. I've enjoyed all the work they're doing right now with Honor No More, which is surprising. With the Ring of Honor Supercard of Honor, they did not have any of those stars make their way over. So I don't know what they're going to be doing if they're going to be brought back over. But Honor No More doesn't have any attachment to Ring of Honor. We just know there happen to be Ring of Honor stars. But adding Eddie Edwards to the mix into the lead role there is great. So that's a good storyline to have going forward. By the way, Ace Austin announcing he is re-signed with Impact Wrestling. It's time to build that guy up into a star. It's time to get him up to the main event, out of the X Division picture. It's time for Ace Austin to win the X Division title. And he needs to be the next guy that does Option C. I mean it. That's what needs to happen. He needs to get Option C. Somewhere down the line, when you see Josh Alexander and Moose take on each other, we need to see that coming up. By the way, we have Rebellion coming up pretty soon. That's in 2 weeks. Forget that's also coming up. And I think at the moment we don't have any matches necessarily scheduled yet, but let me go and take a look and see what we have so far. At the moment, we do have a full card so far set to go. The reigner of the women's title is on the line. Deonna Purrazzo versus Taya Valkyrie. Oh, my God. That's a hell of a match. Tasha Steelz versus Rosemary for the Knockouts title. That's great. Jonathan Gresham versus Eddie Edwards. That's a clinic right there. A clinic for Rebellion. That's a hell of a match. Tomohiro Ishii versus Jonah. That'll be great. That's a strong style match if you could see one, man. That's really fun. And I hope this is a good chance for Jonah to have like that showcase that he could be looked at for New Japan for potentially going over there and doing some work. I think that would be great to see him over there for a bit. That would be excellent. Like, honestly, Jonah, and you tell me if the comparison's like this at all to me, but I feel like Jonah is kind of like what Michael Elgin was. I don't know whatever happened to Michael Elgin. Big Mike. I don't know what happened to him. But Jonah, I feel like, is the next Michael Elgin. He could be at that level, and he could be really, like, international star. Put him over there and do, like, the part, like, go to New Japan, and go work at Impact, all that kind of stuff. Bound by Design is going to do an 8-team elimination challenge, but we don't know the other 3 teams as of yet. X Division title, Trey Miguel versus Ace Austin versus Speedball Mike Bailey. And we get the rematch. Josh Alexander going up against the world champion Moose. This is in Poughkeepsie, New York, by the way, for Rebellion, coming up April the 23rd. This card is at 3 o'clock? Really? That's odd. Is that right? Impact Rebellion, is it really at 3 o'clock in the afternoon? Why? Why is that? The Mid-Hudson Civic Center, by the way. Why is it at 3 o'clock? Are you serious? No. It's 7:30. Somebody, okay, Fightful, damn it. You put this on and you said 3 o'clock. No, it's at 8 o'clock. Don't give me that shit. Come on now. You could do better. Anyways, that's the show. Overall, wrestling is good. For the next couple of weeks, WWE is going to be taking care of us pretty okay. We're going to have some interesting storylines to work off of. You know, I mean, it's what they're going to have to do to try to continue to enhance some of the stars that are going to be taking some of the spots of the celebrity spots that they had leading up to WrestleMania, or the part-timers, and really trying to build some stars out of this. I think they're making some good efforts in some cases. Some of the pairings are very smart. Almost an MVP, very smart. Rhea Ripley, Liv Morgan, very smart. Damian Priest, Edge, very smart. Now, do you add anybody to this brooding new faction of Edge's stable? Does he get a stable of stars? I like that idea a lot. But who do you add? Like, it was funny, somebody was talking about Rhea Ripley, but no. Let her and Liv Morgan work together. Let's let them kind of work their things out. That sounds like a good thing right now. There's a lot more to it. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there. Thanks for listening to another Wrestling is Real podcast, because wrestling needs us. Thank you for listening to the Wrestling is Real podcast. You can find all previous episodes at WrestlingIsReal.com or subscribe to the show on all major podcast outlets, including Apple, Amazon, Google, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Follow the King of Podcasts on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at King of Podcasts, and search King of Podcasts on YouTube, or type youtube.com/JBRASCO951. This has been a presentation of the King of Podcasts Radio Network.